and thank you for joining me for this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I'm a Senior Software Support Analyst supporting the HCL Link product. Today's topic is using HCL Link, creating a flow using the File Listener. Here we are at the HCL Link Design Server login page. I'm going to log in, and you will note that I have no projects currently. So the first thing we need to do is create a project. I'm going to call my project Project 1. Within the project, I'm going to import a couple of files. I'm going to start with importing this file. It's called input.txt. I shall show you the content. It has EDI and then a colon and then some data after it. Nothing too complicated there, but that's going to be our EDI file. Click OK. I'm going to import a schema next, and I'm going to import this output.xsd, which is going to represent the schema for our output XML structure. And now I'm going to create another schema that I'm going to use for my EDI input. I'm just going to call it EDI schema. Okay. The EDI schema needs to have a single item called text item, and the syntax properties, let's change it to an item first. The syntax properties for this item, the initiator is going to be defined as a literal EDI colon, and then everything after that will be considered data. So that's my EDI schema created and saved and closed. Great. Next step is to create the map. To do that, we need to click on the maps area and choose new. Okay, I'm going to call my map EDI to XML. Let's click the OK button and let's create the source input card, IN1. Okay, I'm going to use the command line to build this input card. I'm going to use the file adapter and I'm going to read input.txt. Next, I'm going to keep the file. Yes, everything's fine there as it is. The schema I'm going to use is the EDI schema, and the object from there I'm going to use is text item. Okay, so that's my input card complete. Let's create an output card. Let's call this out1. Next, again I'm going to use the command line. I'm going to use the file adapter, and my output file is going to be called output.xml for now. I'm going to use, let's ignore that screen, I'm going to use the output schema, and from the schema list of objects I'm going to choose XSD. Okay, so that's the output card created. Let's start populating this with some rules. Okay, so we've got prologue, we've got global, root, sequence and data. We'll add the input card to our screen and we're moving in one straight down to data. We are hard coding some of these, so let's just expand them to do that. In here we shall have none. In prologue we shall have 1.0. Oh, I put that in the wrong place, my mistake. Sorry, version 1.0. Encoding UTF-8, and the final is none. Okay, so that is my output mapping complete. Everything else is working exactly as it should, I believe, so we can now click Save and Build and Run. The run is completed successfully. I've got my 2 green ticks. Let's have a check on the output data. Okay, so the input data was the word data. If you remember, it had EDI colon at the beginning, but that's formed part of the initiator. The actual data is just the word data, which has appeared between the data tags of this XML. So the map is working perfectly. Let's now integrate this map into a flow. To do that, we click on Flows and New. Let's call this flow Flow 1. Okay, within my flow I'm going to drag a map onto the canvas, and then I'm going to say that this map node is going to run EDI to XML. Over on the input card I'm going to right click and choose Enable Watch, and I'm going to edit the properties of the input card. I'm going to change the connection not to read input.txt, but instead to go back two directories, into the data directory, into the input directory, and read any file that starts with any name and ends with .txt. I also want the success action to change so that if the map is successful, that file will get deleted. And failure action is going to be rollback. So let's click OK on that one. On the output side, let's set a flow terminal and then edit properties. The connection I'm going to change again to // data output /star.xml. So what it's going to do is take the input name, whatever it was, say test.txt, and move it to the output directory and call it test.xml. Okay, so in the next screen, create commit, that's fine. Let's just check those properties one more time. Edit properties, did I do? Oh, I did do the data directory. Okay, so while we're here, let's change the map settings. Okay, so I am going to enable the audit log file. The file name is going to be fixed at // data /logs /edi to xml.log, and everything else can remain exactly as is. In the trace, I'm going to enable the trace. Text file, yes. File name unique, no, but // data /logs /edi to xml.mtr. And I'm going to turn on the input content tracing for when things go wrong. And the final thing I'm going to do is go into the warnings section and enable a couple of warnings to be actual failures, so that we can actually see what happens when stuff fails. So changed a couple of warnings to failures there. Okay, I think that's everything complete in my flow. So what I'll do here is click the save button, and the next step is to bring that into a package. To do that, we go back to the home and we go into the deploy area and we build a package. So let's click plus to create a new one. I'm going to call it package 1, and from the project 1 I'm going to read in a flow 1. Click add. Okay, so that's my package created successfully. I can deploy it from this screen, so I can tick that package 1 and click on the rocket ship there to deploy that over to my REST API. Before I do that, let me just quickly show you the REST API endpoints page. Shows that there are currently no endpoints defined. So let's deploy that now. Hit the deploy button. We see the deploying message. The green bar moves across the screen and we get the deployed successfully. Hit close. Back on the Swagger page, I hit refresh here, and you will see that my flow has deployed successfully. Let's have a quick talk about the REST API next. When I created the HIP REST container, I used the docker create command, and the important thing was that I used the -v parameter to mount a volume from the inside of the container to a directory on the outside of the container. So inside the container we have /data, and outside the container that same directory structure can be seen in /opt /hip-rest. Here we have a PuTTY session to my Linux box. I've logged in, I've used the sudo command to change to root. and I've changed to the /opt/hip_rest directory. Now, as you remember from the previous slide, I mentioned this directory doesn't really exist. It's been volume mapped from the container hip rest. So if we have a look in the maps directory, you will see that we have a directory called package1, and inside package1 is where the actual map lives. If you remember, my input card was set to watch back 2 directories, then into data, and then into input. You will note there are 2 directories in here that keep a tab of trigger files. So let's have an EDI file arrive in here. Let's use the printf command to send in some data. EDI, this is my data, and then send it to a file called test1.txt. Okay, so I hit the enter. That file should now exist, but it doesn't. The reason is that it's already been picked up by the listener that's running on this REST API container, and it's removed the file already and put it into the output directory. So let's have a look here. We have one file, this time called test1.xml, and if we check the content of test1.xml, oops, let's capitalize that. You will note that we've got the sentence, "This is my data," inside XML tags. So there we go, that's what happens when there's a success. Let's just quickly show you in logs. The logs have been created, but we won't look at those just yet. Let's go into output and let's do test2. Let's do printf, this is garbage, because there's no EDI thing at the beginning, so this will fail the input validation. Test2.txt. Okay, so the map will have run, but no file has arrived in the output directory. So let's check into logs and check the audit log, and you can see here that the map ran and said input value but not found. And we can also check the MTR file as well, which will show pretty much the same thing. This is garbage, does not match initiator. And then in input, the file in theory has rolled back, but it's not actually in the main directory, it's rolled back into one of these subdirectories. I'm not sure which one, so let's show them both. There we go, there it is in docs. So there we have it, the HCL link file listener running in the REST API.